everybody, my name is Nozivela Kamganamayaba. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much guys for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. Guys, as you know, I am quite transparent about different aspects of my life, right? And I thought I should do this video because I wanted to share an incident that happened about a week ago, with the hope that it's going to ignite some kind of conversation. I invite you to please interact with me on the comment section, on my different social media platforms. I would love your input, your opinion on this. And yeah, so about a week ago, I'm calling Umama, right, in Port Elizabeth. Not feeling well, so I thought to myself, let me see how she's doing. I'm sure a conversation with her is going to make my day. So anyway, conversation is starting to go well, right? We asking each other how we feeling, what's happening in Port Elizabeth, and so forth. And then it started going left, right? But it's expected of a mama. Let me just get it out there. It's expected of a mama. You'll be talking about something else, and then she starts another conversation. So she tells me how she was watching some TV show, and there's this one girl that was having some kind of a challenge. But what struck her the most was that this girl during the interview said what broke her the most is that she could not confide, to her parents, particularly her mom. And so na mama, my mom is feeling some kind of way because she started thinking about me and how she doesn't have confidence that if I ever had to run into any kind of trouble or experience some kind of a challenge, I would not have the confidence to go to her and confide on her. So as she was saying this, once again, this was very random because we were talking about something else. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll be honest, I'm getting annoyed. Guys, I'm one person that does not have time for one of mom's epiphanies, right? Opoti usually can entertain her. I can't, because I really don't have the time. Oh mama, if you entertain some of her stuff, she's the one who wake you up at 2 a.m. in the morning and start rambling about something that does not make any sense. So I usually just brush her off and I'm like, ma, honestly, not today, right? So I'm beginning to get annoyed and she can sense, right? And I'm like, mama, okay, you are watching a TV show and now we're talking about me. What's the relevance, right? And then she starts saying, no, don't get annoyed. And because galoko, you are the very same person. A couple of years ago, I was under the impression that when you were using a condom, when you were in that relationship, but later on, I found out, excuse me, that you were not. And actually now you got infected with HIV. And in that process, you hid that from me for a number of years. You did not come to me and confide in me. So that took me out, okay? I don't want to lie, I didn't expect it. And I was hurt, because at first I thought to myself, mama could have used any kind of example. First of all, let me say, that conversation shouldn't have happened in the first place, in my opinion. But also, okay, it happened now, but why would you use that particular example of my HIV status and why I hid it from you for so many years, right? And also because I was under the impression that we had actually overcome that stage. I was under the impression that she was doing well. I didn't have any kind of hint that she was having some kind of a challenge, with me living with HIV or me hiding my status from her for so many years, right? And so anyway, I started, getting more angry. I'll be very honest. And mostly in these type of conversations when I'm trying to make a point or I'm trying to explain how I feel. So my brother and I are very different. Mama will have a screaming session, alone with my brother. So my brother will keep quiet, let her be, and not be bothered at all. I'm the exact opposite, where if there's something that I don't like, I will tell you that I do not like this, right? And you need to change it. And this is how it's making me feel. But then because our personalities are more similar, so every time I try to explain, I don't like this, this is uncalled for. You could have made any kind of example, but not this, right? I did not even know that this is how you are feeling. So is this something that you have been, it has been bottling up within you, or it's just a random, example. And the more I try to explain, the more she's also like, no, don't raise your voice. And then, because I said what I said, and as a parent, you need to accept that. So we're busy now having a screaming session, and then eventually I'm like, you know what, like, I don't have time. And the more I try to explain, the more you're not listening to me. So let's just end it at that. So a couple of days after, I traveled to Port Elizabeth. I have an event that I was invited to. And this happened at a very interesting time because the event was all about, how do you raise a girl child? The relationship between a mother and a girl child. How do we empower a girl child? And then obviously it made me reflect on my own, relationship with my own mother. And particularly the journey of me living with HIV, how I came to disclose to her about my HIV status, and how has the response been? Because once again, all this time, I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, at first it was quite hard, but then eventually Umama came around after looking at the impact that my story has had, in my community, to different people. And she has been able to understand that, okay, it was an unfortunate situation, but God used it for good, of what now is being done, and that is a saving of many lives. I am often asked, given what I know now, if I ever had to go back and given the chance to tell my mom about my HIV status earlier, will I ever do it? And my honest answer is no. I don't think I would have told my mom earlier, because I don't think either one of us would have survived, right? I don't think I would have survived in the literal sense. What I mean about that is that we would have been so toxic for each other that either she would have passed away, from heartache and me going against everything that she's saying, or I would have been so frustrated with how, she would be doing things that I would have eventually committed suicide. And I'm not even exaggerating. For example, if I had told my mom earlier about my HIV status, I can already imagine she would have wanted me to stay home and not do anything else. She would not have wanted me to date, so meaning I would not have met my husband because she fears that I would infect someone. I wouldn't be able to speak to anyone about my HIV status. So the kind of work that I'm doing now, I don't think I would have been able to do it, right? But because of that frustration, I would have probably gone against it and pushed her to the level where she feels defeated and so heartbroken that she doesn't know what else to do, and maybe get sick and eventually be the cause of my mom passing away. Or she would have continued to push, according to what she feels is right. And then I would obviously been frustrated to a point I'm like, no man, there's no point in living like this. And then obviously, as I've said, eventually commit suicide. As you know, I was very vulnerable then. So anything that she would have said, and knowing Umama throws punches. Umama throws punches. I'm not sure whether she actually moves on from something, but any chance that she gets, to go back to something, but hey, do you remember this? And then similar to what just happened now, and then very random conversation, and then throws in something about my HIV status and how I hid it from her for so many years. I don't think I would have been able to withstand that. The first response out of what she said was being offended and thinking to myself, this is exactly why I didn't tell her earlier, and this is exactly why I had to wait, for so many years, so that I can gain the strength to, withstand whatever, she may say, or however she may be able to handle, me living with HIV and publicly living with HIV. But also at the same time, I started reflecting from her own perspective as well. So if you've been following me for quite some time, you would know that I came to disclose my HIV status 2019. Actually, like a week before the I Am Still Me video came out. So I remember, even when I disclosed my HIV status, it was actually not me that disclosed my HIV status. I gave her a call because we were already in Johannesburg and she was back in Port Elizabeth. Gave her a call and I told her that there was something that I wanted to speak to her about. But because, guys, I come from a family that we have never been afforded as children the opportunity to come and sit down. Come in and talk about how you're feeling. We have never had that opportunity. As I've said, it has always been a case where if we do something wrong, we are sat down and it's always a one-way conversation where my mom is giving us a piece of her mind and then that will be it. So now to reverse that, in my mind, it was quite difficult. Trying to have a conversation with my mom about something that I experienced and trying to just be open about my journey. So it didn't matter how she tried to make me feel comfortable, but what happened? I just could not utter the words that, Mama, I was infected with HIV in August of 2013 and I've been hiding that from you all this time. So eventually I was like, no, I can't do it. And then she called my brother and it was my brother who confirmed my HIV status. Obviously, as a parent, it's not something she was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's something that I knew, She took it hard. But with the help of my husband and my brother, she started, coming to terms with it. But it took a lot out of her to get to that point. And I didn't even give her, I feel, adequate time to deal with herself. Because as I said, literally a week later, I publicly declared my HIV status on YouTube, right? And obviously people that knew us, my community, distant relatives knew and started calling her to confirm, church members, people from church, having all sorts of different things to say, right? And I don't think I had taken the time, or I don't think I wanted to take the time to understand how it made her feel. Because now that I think about it, I've never had a conversation with Mama where I'm like, how are you feeling? Is what I'm doing hurting you? Any conversation that had to do with my HIV status was always indirect. I remember a documentary that I did, Unozi Goes Back Home, and we were interviewing her. I was not in the room when she was being interviewed. So the guy, the cameraman, and his assistant were the ones who were interviewing my mom. So when you were watching that video, it was also the first time that I was watching that video, right? Or later on, it will be in between conversations where she'll be like, oh, so-and-so called me and told me, they were listening to you on a national radio. They heard your story and they feel that you are helping so many different people. But it was never about her directly and about how she feels about the whole thing. And I'll be very honest that it is very difficult for me to think about the next steps because I don't know how to have that conversation, no, ma'am. A conversation where we can both be heard, right? Obviously, as I've said, both my mom and I have very strong personalities, and we are not people, or my family is not one where, oh, let's go for counseling. I've gone for counseling as an individual and I've seen how it has helped me. But then it is not something, obviously, as a family where we're like, oh, let's maybe call a social worker. A social worker might help us, right? I don't even think that my mom will ever listen to a social worker. Guys, Mama is one of those people. Someone asked me the other day, who does your mom listen to, right? Because I was obviously relaying the story. And I'm like, no one. Oh, Mama is just her own person. I'm not laughing, guys. No, it's just a coping mechanism. Oh, Mama is just one of those people where she doesn't listen to anyone. She doesn't listen to the pastor. She doesn't listen to my brother. She will probably give respect, to my husband, but also at the same time, when she has had enough, she'll probably give her a piece of his mind as well, So that's where I'm kind of stuck. But I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to have that conversation with her. Obviously, also for me, without the emotion, But also, how do I detach myself from such a conversation? That's a difficult part about it. So going back to why I was sharing this video, and influenced by, the event I just came back from in Port Elizabeth, raising a girl child, the mother-daughter relationship, actually just a parent-child relationship. Obviously, this is coming from a place where I'm not a parent, but I've been raised by one. The relationships that we have with our parents. Do you have a good relationship with, your mom or your dad? Do you feel like if you ever had to get into trouble, will they be the first people that you reach out to? Do you feel that they will use whatever that you have gone through against you in the future? And does that influence whether you tell them now or later? But also, as the future generation of parents, I'm not a parent yet. I'm yet to be given that privilege. But I'm someone that has gone through challenges in terms of the relationship that I have with my mom in particular. How I'm open to her, to what extent am I open to her, to what extent am I comfortable talking to her, so how is that going to now influence my own parenting skills? Obviously I would love to have a different relationship with my own children, but I don't want to lie, there are traits that I can already observe that I have, and that I have inherited from my own mother, For example, the way I would sometimes raise my voice to make my point across, because I feel, I've never had the privilege to be heard, when I was growing up, at home. So whenever I'm faced with a situation where I'm not heard or someone doesn't want to hear me, the next thing I do is to raise my voice so that this person, I feel that this person is going to hear me. And I don't think that is obviously a good communication skill, and that is something that I try my level best to work towards too, and that has affected different relationships that I've had, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in my marriage, raising my voice to make my point across. That's not healthy, whether the relationship that I have with my siblings, with my nieces, with my family members, all of that, so it really makes me think about, hey, how is it going to affect me in the future? How is it already affecting me? I don't have a solution to it, and that is why, I was inviting you to please interact, on the comment section, interact on my different social media platforms about, your own journeys with your own parents. But lastly, I think the one thing this conversation or this one incident has actually reminded me of is that my ass needs to go back to therapy. My behind needs to go back to therapy, okay? Was I being insensitive for feeling the way I felt, that she used my HIV status against me to make a point? Was I insensitive to think all of this was about me? Or she had every right, because probably she has unresolved, feelings about this whole thing, and maybe I should get a mediator, to kind of put us together and iron out, these unresolved issues. I would love to hear from your own perspective. Maybe share a story, one or two stories from your side as well about a difficult situation that you found yourself in, and maybe you were not confident that your parent would be able to handle it, and I'd love to hear from you. But anyway guys, thank you so much for joining me. See you next time.